Good afternoon, everyone. We are coming live to you today to talk about what's been happening in Edmonton's real estate market. And I'm going to talk to you today also about our summer real estate market. So let me just start off by talking about the listings and the pending sales and the sold stats that we always go through every single week. So currently we are at 2,606 properties for sale, and this is higher than it has been. It continues to rise. And if you take a look at the surrounding areas, they're all going up. Now, is that something scary? No, I would not think it's scary to see that it's going up, because we do see that the sales are actually going down. It's still not a balanced market. We're still in a seller's market, but big caveat, depending on the price point, you're going to see an even slower market. And what that means is that you need to make sure that your property is actually listed in the right way. And we're talking today about how do you sell and buy in this summer market. So let's take a look at what happened in pending sales in the last week. And in the last week, we saw a little lower than we did the week before. And all over the surrounding areas, you're starting to see that. So you're starting to see the decline in sales. And this is something that we are starting to see and starting to trend towards. And so summer is normal for sales to start to slow down. They haven't slowed down significantly, but they have started to slow down. So you want to be mindful of that. And the actual sold, so things that remove conditions, is almost identical to the week before. Now, if you're watching me live, I've had technical issues before, and I'd love for you to give me a thumbs up if the sound is working. And otherwise, I'm going to have to restart it again. I think I've done it twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row now doing that. So when you take a look at what's happening in the market, we definitely are starting to see the summer market take into effect, which is basically things starting to slow down. So if you're looking to sell your house, you have to be really careful of how much money you're listing your house for, because there's less buyers on the market, which then obviously is going to be less demand. And if you are a buyer, you need to be careful of not being too ambitious of trying to get like a really good deal. We're not quite there at that stage yet either. We're not in a buyer's market. So we're going to take a look at some sales in the area so I can show you what's happening. So if you have any requests for communities in the west or southwest area, please go ahead and type those in. We're going to go into my default areas for single family. We're going to look at Rosenthal and kind of take a look at the difference in sales from April. So we're going to go sold this month in April, from the 1st to the 30th. So there was 11 sales in that month. If we look at the next month, you're looking at 16. So May had a higher sales month. Now, so far in June, let's just say this month, we've had 5. So likely going to track lower. I mean, we only have 1 week left in this month. So it is getting slower, and it's going to trend downwards, and that's quite typical. If we even take a look at, let's say, the Hamptons area, we'll go to take a look at, so this month is 7, not significantly higher. Let's go look at April for this one. 19. And then for May, we saw 17. So pretty similar for April and May, but then in June, it's starting to get a little bit quieter. Let's take a look at what's sold in the Hamptons in May for single family. So ranging from $392 all the way to $989. So quite the range. Average price being sold there is $535, which is about the average price of a single family home in Edmonton. The lower price point homes are going to be the duplexes, ones with single attached garages, ones with the double attached garages. And these homes are older compared to Rosenthal area. And then if you want to take a look at even older neighborhood, like say Linwood, these are homes with bungalows that are 50s built. We had 6 sales. So there's not a lot of properties that come for sale in these neighborhoods. And if we take a look at this month, we've had 3. And they range from 365 to 822. But if you see the 3 different sales, they're quite different. 365 gone in 2 days in June. So, June still moves properties. You just have to be priced properly. It was listed at 360. 575 was listed at the same price. So right on the nose. And then this one was listed at 849 and sold for 822. Higher price points in Edmonton definitely are not selling within the range. So if we take a look at 700 to 800, let's say 800,000. So we've had 61 sales. Let's go over to Edmonton, just 34 sales in 700 to 800,000 range. And this is all if they price properly. I don't know how they priced. This is the list price based on that, and based on, if you take a look at the red, it's sold below list, and then the greens are above list. So you can see we've got 34, right? So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 houses out of 34 sold above list. The rest all sold under list price. So you have to be very mindful of what you're doing when you're pricing a house, because if this house was listed at 700, could it have gotten more traction? And a lot of times people think that it's easier just to negotiate, but I believe it's better to negotiate the other direction. This house was listed at 634 and sold for 723. So there is ranges where the price point and demand is quite high. 3 days on market. This one listed at 698, sold for 730. So there is possibilities for your properties to sell for more if you're taking the right strategy. When these prices are higher, you can see the average days on market is about 30 days, with the highest being 103 on market. So it was at 749, then sold for 740, and there could be probably a history of the houses selling for being on the market for even longer. So summer market, your strategy, the best thing to do is figure out where you're selling, what has sold. If you're trying to get more money than the last houses that have sold in the past. Oops, let me just get rid of these. Oh, this is interesting. There we go. If you're trying to sell for more money than if you have the highest prices here and you want up here, you have to understand that there's got to be a lot of different things going for you for it to move that way. And we're moving into a market that's softer. And so it's harder to get that kind of traction. Not impossible, but definitely something you have to consider in order to make sure that this is going to move. Because if you get caught and it's fall and the market continues to trend downwards, you're only going to be chasing the market, and you could have potentially sold for higher had you listed it properly in June. So take a look at that. If you don't need to sell right away, I would think that you would want to wait till next spring. But waiting until next spring doesn't necessarily get you substantially more money, but it probably will sell it even quicker because of the demand. But that's all a crystal ball, which I don't have. The interest rates haven't really moved a whole lot in this last 6 months. And so that was supposed to be making sales move faster, and we didn't really see that. Now, last week I talked a lot about the GST incentive for first-time home buyers that the government has offered, and it's too early yet to see if we have seen a huge influx in sales, but I haven't seen anybody blow up on their feed in terms of the builders, like that it's so busy. They're still trying to educate people that there is an ability to get this. I talked to one of the builders that I work with, and they don't even know what's exactly happening, if it's being assigned. What they're thinking they're going to do is on possession, if it gets rebated before, they'll just lower the purchase price before so that your mortgage isn't for that amount. But there's still a lot of big question marks as to how the federal government is going to issue this $50,000 up to $50,000 rebate, because was just announced less than a month ago, and nobody quite knows how that's going to pan out. So we'll see in the next few months as things start to close how those are supposed to work and how buyers are supposed to get credited for it. If you are a buyer looking at buying resale homes, you need to make sure you've got your ducks in a row still. You want to get your mortgage pre-approval done. You got to make sure you know and understand how to put an offer in on a property. You still, like, people are asking if you can do pending sale buyer's home. if your home isn't even on the market yet, it's going to be very difficult for the sellers to even accept that offer, because we typically see on our contract is a form you fill out and you choose how many hours you're going to have that house on the market. And the seller and the buyer both have to agree in terms of when that house is going on the market. So when you put pending sale buyer's home, you are bringing in another voice in terms of being concerned or being a stakeholder of your house selling. And if they're going to accept that offer that you've put in, they have to accept all the different terms. So something really important to consider and think about when you're thinking about pending sale. If you There's other ways to do this though. You can put your house on the market and then we can look. If you're coming from out of province, it's going to be different to navigate the different markets. If you're in Edmonton, we can sit down and strategize between, hey, what is it going to take to sell your house? How long do you think it's going to take? What price point are we doing? What strategy are we doing? And then take a look at your next neighborhood that you're moving into or the next price point you're moving into and putting a strategy there to figure out, because some of these neighborhoods are going to move a lot faster. So if you're watching this video after and you have questions about neighborhoods, make sure you put them in, because next week I'm going to dive in to more of the different areas to look at the price points to see how much has it increased from January of this year to June of this year. If you bought that same house in January, how much would it have cost? We'll take a look at that next week. See you guys.